Merrill to center field. Marshall going back. At the wall. Gone! Little Merrill Madness. Straight away. A bit, so. One of the reasons he's still in. This is driven to deep center. Watch up back at the wall. Merrill Madness, dead center. Padres take a 3-2 lead. One swing of the bat. Campus out on the refield. Base hit. Here comes Saul. Lawrence throw will be. Lady Padres. Walk it up. Campus out on the right.
Go ahead, tell us we can't do it. We gonna do it twice. Go ahead.
Hello and welcome back to Padres Playback. I'm Bob, that's Bill, he's Coop, and boy are we feeling good in San Diego. Let me tell you what, big 3-game sweep over the best team in baseball. The offense is red hot. We got pitchers finally, and today, as of 2 hours ago, we are in sole possession of that second wild card spot in the National League. So keep it tuned, and we're going to cover all things that's happened in the past week.
Yeah, oh my goodness. You guys probably hear me talk about HOPIUM quite a lot. Full of it today, right? Because we coming into the series, I think maybe 2 out of 3 would be cool. Sweeping them was not in my books, especially with just how the first game was going, right? So sweeping the best team in baseball, what more can give you more HOPIUM than what we just did this past couple of days, right?
Yeah, I'm feeling real good. I mean, the offense has just finally sort of gotten out of first gear and really started clicking, and we'll cover more of that later. The bullpen has been as nasty as advertised, and we saw Mize and Ray bounce back in a real big way after a rocky transition coming in after the deadline. And yeah, I mean, sweeping the best team in baseball, the team that has 2 wins more than the Dodgers. They were 1 away from 75. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And I think it's 15 out of our last 19. So, dude, we're like right in the thick of it. Like, we can make some noise for sure.
Yeah. Quick thoughts on
Absolutely.
on that, Coop. Sorry.
Yeah. Looking into how the team has looked recently, like Bob said, excuse me. We have won 15 of our last 19, and in that time, overtaken 6 teams in the National League wildcard race. If you look back, we were in a bad spot, 3.5 weeks ago. But it's been an incredibly hot stretch as of late. Like we said, the offense, finally out of first gear. And looking at this roster going into the season, which while there have been some changes, of course, key trade deadline acquisitions, injuries, etc. I feel like the roster going into the year we thought would be good, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they weren't as good, or they had a good April, or good or a good May. That month it was 21-9, right? But they fell off. They fell off hard, and it looks like they're back. So I definitely think the Padres are certainly a team where I'd bet on them to make the wild card at this point. And I'm excited to talk about what we've done over the last couple of weeks, what we expect to do over the next few, and where the Padres can end up.
Yeah. So as of this recording, 65-57, 8 games back of the Dodgers, currently holding the second spot in the wild card, winner of 7 of the last 10. 5-game winning streak. I believe we won 4 out of our last 5 series. Plus 1 run differential, so we made up the Cubs series when they took the belt to our asses. Here's what stands out to me still: expected win-loss 61-61. So this team is playing better than what the numbers and the expected analytics are showing. So definitely good times in San Diego indeed, right? Let's jump right into
That's right there.
Yeah, let's jump right into some housekeeping stuff. Bob, run us through some of the recent roster transactions and upcoming returns.
Yeah, so after the trade deadline, there's usually a lot of pieces switching around, and we've definitely seen our fair share of that. The first one, Marquez got DFA'd. He was DFA'd to make room for Robbie Ray, and he did clear waivers. He is currently a free agent. If he wants to sign somewhere, he can. If he wants to go back to El Paso, he can. It's his choice. Thank you for your service. People probably will forget Germán Marquez played for the Padres, but he had a couple really good outings for us, and he held it down when we had nobody else, and there's not really much more you can say about it. Gage Workman, who was part of the Mize trade, almost immediately called up produces, hits a big 3-run double in Arizona, but then he gets sent back down to the minor leagues because we signed Austin Hayes.
Yeah.
Austin Hayes came in from the Reds organization, I believe, and he's a former All-Star right-handed power bat, mostly a corner outfielder, but we'll get into more of what he's done. But I like that pickup. I like that pickup a lot. The big question is, why not Bowen? Why is Chase Bowen still on the team? Outside of that, when Casey engaged initially came to the team, we saw Rodolfo Duran and JP Sears, Sweaty Sears, get sent back to El Paso. And that's pretty much it that's come across the timeline. Today, we saw that David Morgan has been reinstated from the 15-day IL and outrighted, not optioned to El Paso. So it looks like for the time being, Griffin Canning is still a Padre. Don't really know when he's going to come off the roster, if he's going to stay on the roster, and got some pretty big people coming back soon. The most immediate, we were going to talk about David Morgan, but he came back today off the IL. The one I'm waiting for, the one I'm sure a lot of Padres fans are waiting for, is Samad Taylor, who has been rehabbing down in the Arizona Complex League, taking live at-bats, playing in live games, and from the very few clips I've seen, I don't know if you guys have seen them, he looks pretty good. I saw him lay a bunt down, hustle down to first, and he didn't grab at his leg or anything. He's coming back from an oblique strain. I'm patiently waiting for him to come back because the team, when Samad first came up, they seemed to just really gel around him. And he sort of became the spark plug for the offense when we needed it in that mid-June section of the season. Other than that, that's pretty much all we got coming down the pipe right now.
Yeah, speaking of guys on the farm, so let's touch a little bit on Ethan Salas, promoted to AAA. If AJ Preller will trade everybody, including his mother, but a highly touted catcher, Luis Campusano, no. Ethan Salas, no. So obviously we were all kind of expecting AJ to hang on to Ethan unless there was some piece that required him for us to move. He's raking so far in El Paso, but El Paso famously, notoriously known as a hitter-friendly league. Talk to me, boys, about your thoughts on Ethan. Let's start with you, Coop.
Yeah. Like we noted, El Paso is definitely a hitter-friendly place to be, but he's still slashing 326, 404, 605 since getting up there. That's in 11 games, 43 at bats, I believe. It might be plate appearances, but I think it's at bats. He's got 2 homers, 13 ribbies, and a stolen base in that time frame as well. So, like we said, El Paso, of course, it does favor hitters, but anybody who's batting 326 at the AAA level, especially when they're as young as he is,
20 years old, right?
I think he's 20, maybe still 19,
Yeah.
but I think he's 20. That's a stud. That's
Yeah.
a bona fide stud. And as I don't see him ever getting moved from this organization, or at least in the time that he's a prospect, unless the package back is absurd.
Yeah.
Like, look in the context of this past trade deadline, it would have had to be a situation where we're getting Scooble for him, and Scooble is instantly agreeing to re-sign
Right.
with us as part of that.
Right.
That's the only world where a guy like Salas gets moved.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome to see him rake in AAA after great performances in AA as well. But I feel like he's almost even upped his performance a little bit since moving to AAA. Yeah, he's a dog.
I mean, his first game in AAA was like a multi-hit game, right? So it's kind of interesting because we didn't have very good catchers for the past couple of years, right? We were dealing with the Diaz's of the world and Maldonados of the world, and all of a sudden we have 2 catchers that our future looks really stacked at that position with the emergence of Campusano and what Salas is doing. So definitely an area of strength. I have been on records on threads to say if there's an ace quality guy that requires Ethan Salas to for us to get, we do it, right? Just because I feel like Campy, we got 2 years of control left on him. He's the catcher of the present and possibly the next couple of years, whatever the future is. But Bob, what are your thoughts on Ethan, Prince Ethan?
I'm super excited about Ethan Salas, and as much as Freddie Fermin is contributing to this team right now, I can't help but think about a dynamo offensive combo behind the dish with Ethan Salas and Luis Campusano. And, for all of the talk about Salas's offense, defense is his calling card.
Yep.
This is a guy who, when we got him into the system, was touted as having an 80 grade defensive tool. Big arm behind the plate that's accurate, and he can call the game really well. And I think the biggest thing for me is that Joe Musgrove threw to him while he was on his rehab start, and it looked great. It looked fantastic. Joe looked comfortable. It looked like they were really vibing, and that he was just controlling Joe's rehab outing extremely well. Joe's a vet. Joe's been in the big leagues for 10 years. But also, a lot of that has to do with Ethan calling pitches, Ethan setting him up for success, and Ethan sort of shepherding him through this very stressful time for Joe, which we'll touch on later. But yeah, I mean, Campy has been balling, and Ethan Salas has been tearing it up. And I don't hate carrying 3 catchers when you're going into the postseason. I don't hate that at all. The real question is, do we want him up? Because he's comfortable right now. I, for one, think let's keep a good thing a good thing. Let's chalk him up for a 2027, if there is one, debut, and have him be the catcher of the future with Luis. That's just my opinion. If he comes up and he immediately starts raking, we've seen a lot of young guys do it, I will be singing a different tune, and you can use this as proof. You can clip it, whatever. But I think we messed him up too quickly, bringing him up, especially when he was brand new in the system, because we didn't have that catcher. The Padres haven't had a stable backstop in a decade.
Yeah,
probably more.
Or ever.
I mean, we had Higgy for a little bit, and outside of that, he was the last guy who I was like, yeah, I feel really good about our catcher situation. We basically ran out 2 quad A catchers all year last year, in Maldonado and Elias Diaz. So the big area of need, and I think we have help on the way.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Ethan did deal with some injury issues the past couple of years or so with the back and whatnot. But I think we have the rest of the month to see, right? Ideally right now you want a 19, 20-year-old guy to get reps, to play every single day. So if you call him up in September, he's probably not going to play every day, right? With their catching situation with Campusano and Vermin. But if he goes off and hits 400, hits a couple more bombs for the rest of this month, which there's 2-3 weeks left to it, you would be foolish and not toy with the idea of, hey, let's call him up and see what he's got in the majors, right? Especially he could be that lefty bat off the bench late game that we need as well. So super excited on Ethan. Let's jump right into the medical rehab updates. I think the 2 biggest piece that a lot of Padres fans are waiting for right now is Joe Musgrove and Nick Pivetta. So talk to me, boys, about what you guys have seen from the rehab start so far. What encouraged you? What's a concern? What do you think the impact these guys are going to make if they do make it back? Let's start with you again, Coop.
Yeah. Starting with Musgrove, just because seems to be a little further on. If we go through what he's done, for any of you who don't keep up with AAA super closely, he has completed 2 rehab starts within a single week. That's really good progress from what I was expecting. I honestly expected Pivetta to be back sooner than Joe. Saquon Joe is one of my dogs, of course, but he's Saquon Joe at the end of the day. But in those outings, his first one, he pitched 2.2 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, an earned run, 2 Ks. And he went 39 pitches there, which is really good pace. Again, it's against AAA bats, but I wouldn't say no to a guy who gets 39 pitches through 8 outs any day. And his fastball is still pretty quick. At least looking at the rest of our rotation, we don't have any gunners among our starters, at least. But his fastball was pushing 93, 94, so great to see on that. And then he pitched a little more. August 9th, went 3.1 innings, did give up 6 hits, but still only 1 earned run. Didn't walk anybody and got 2 Ks there. So looking at Joe, I think he's someone who will slot in nicely as the 4 or 5 man in our rotation.
Yeah.
In previous years, he was certainly higher up there. Maybe our 2-3 guy, even at times, could be considered our 1. That's just not who Joe is anymore. But I do feel better sending Joe Musgrove out there from what I've seen in his previous career, and then of course his work in AAA, than I feel about Walker Buehler. I feel better about him probably than Randy Vasquez, even though he's looked pretty good in his last couple outings. So
don't sleep
I don't
on Randy.
know who sticks around.
Don't sleep on Randy.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to, but the Z's are getting to me.
Yeah.
I'm nodding off a little bit on Randy.
Yeah.
Um, but Joe, I mean, if Pavetta's back too, I think both those guys slot in, no questions asked,
Yeah.
over Randy and Walker. But with Musgrove looking a little further on, and I'll let my co-host here talk about Nick more
Yeah.
because I've taken a lot of time on Joe for you guys.
Yeah.
But he's certainly someone I'd be happy to see in the rotation, and I think we'll fill that gap pretty well.
Real quick, you touched on the rehab or the impact. So you think, you think he'd be better than Walker and probably Randy. So is Joe somebody that you would hand the ball off to in a game 4 of the NLDS?
With our bullpen, yes.
Okay.
I don't feel good about it, but given the situation we have with I mean, if we take this still right now in time,
Yeah.
right? The offense looks like they're heating up. The bullpen has been consistent despite injury pretty much all
Yeah.
year. I feel like we haven't really choked away
Yeah.
any games, right? The closest thing to choking away a game, I feel like, is really when we gave Randy a 6-run lead and then he gave it away his
The
next
Texas.
time up.
Yep. Yeah.
But outside of that, I think with our offense, I'd feel okay
Okay.
giving Joe the ball in a game 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think that's where I'm sitting right now.
so as of today, game 4, series tied, or they're we're down 2-1. You would give Joe the ball, but with extremely short leash.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I think I'm waiting for him to give up 3 runs and hoping that doesn't happen before the 5th,
Okay.
and then passing it to the bullpen at that point.
Okay. Gotcha. Talk to us about Nikki P, Bob.
Yeah, I love Nick Pivetta. Let me start everything that I'm about to say with that. I love Nick Pivetta. His 2025, I think, filled a lot of Padres fans with hope.
Yeah.
And it's been a very tough year, especially for me. I consider myself a humongous Nick Pivetta fan. I have an autographed ball on my desk at work. That's my guy. But he faced 2 batters against the Ontario Tower Buzzers, and it looks like he was up 0-2, threw a curveball, thought it was strike 3, walked off the mound. Kind of the same thing he did against Colorado when he left the game, except for he didn't call the trainers out, and then everybody sort of collectively gasped.
Yeah.
And I think immediately everybody's brain, especially with Joe's recent struggles coming off of the IL and coming back from Tommy John. Granted, Pivetta hasn't had Tommy John, sort of expected the worst. And then Kevin Easy, I think, was the first guy to report it later that he threw, I think, a 20 to 30 pitch bullpen doing side work without cleats on.
He had to poop.
I think he had to poop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he threw a big curveball, maybe grunted a little too hard. He was wearing all white.
Yeah.
And needed to go into the clubhouse.
Ouch.
And was like, whatever.
Yeah.
This is single A. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, I think it was 3 or 4 days later, on Monday, he was in the clubhouse and he was talking with reporters and just very Nick Pivetta about everything. He was like, I don't know. Here's what I do know, that I felt this when I went to the bullpen, tried to replicate it. I didn't feel anything. And I think the thing with Pivetta is that we didn't see any concerns with velocity drops when he was pitching, just like Joe. And I think he's going to make a rehab start probably next week.
Yeah.
Craig Stammen said we're just putting a pause on it for right now. But everything's going sort of as expected. All the cylinders are firing. So I'm definitely patiently awaiting for another rehab start from Pivetta, but I do not think he's going to make that August 22nd deadline for his option.
Yeah.
So I think the new question is, we're talking about where does Joe sort of slot in the rotation? It's like, does Nick Pivetta fit into the Padres' future? And it's a really sucky question to ask because this is a guy who has been a quad A'er. He's bounced around the league. He was with Philly, Boston, all these organizations, and finally had a great season. 2025, he got Cy Young votes. He finished 6th. He had a great season. He had an under 3 ERA, almost 200 strikeouts. And this was his shot, and even if it wasn't going to be with the Padres, I always want players to go get their bag because their money is not always guaranteed. It takes them a long time. And Dennis Lin was on Ben and Woods, I think it was Monday morning, sort of saying that he thinks the Padres front office, unless they see something in the next 2 or 3 weeks to sort of convince them otherwise, is looking to get out from under Nick Pavetta's contract because he's owed $14 million. 14 million isn't a crazy price tag for a starting pitcher, but I think especially with everything that's happened with Joe recently, they aren't particularly looking to take on money for, I hate to put it this way, but damaged goods or an arm that's compromised.
Yeah.
And you know, for what it's worth, if he does come back and throw a killer bullpen and throw a killer rehab start, I think Nick Pivetta immediately slots in as probably the number 3 guy, just because we've seen what a healthy Nick Pivetta looks like. This is a guy who is everything you want in a starting pitcher. The term dog gets thrown around so much, but if you have not watched a lot of Nick Pivetta play baseball,
Yeah.
he is of the Max
Find a
Scherzer
highlight
ilk
reel.
where
Find a highlight
Dude.
reel.
dude, yeah, he has a big 12-6 curveball and he throws a hard, and I really like that in a pitcher. I like somebody who's gonna, fill up the strike zone, pump strikes in there, and bully batters. And
Yeah.
the Padres have kind of been missing that.
Yeah.
And I definitely miss seeing Nick Pivetta in brown and gold. But yeah, I don't know very much about Pivetta right now. I'm glad that he seems to be okay and seems to be tracking. But Billy sort of alluded to it that, like, especially with the starts we're seeing out of our guys right now, it might just be best if he chalks it up and, like, aims for next year.
Just go get the surgery. Yeah.
The competitor he is, he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that.
Yeah, so for me, there's no doubt in my mind that we're a better ball club with a healthy Nick Pivetta, right? But the question is a healthy Nick Pivetta in the cards for the rest of the season, right? And the quote that Stammen had when he left that rehab start was, I think he was at a point where maybe he was scared, maybe worried, maybe hurt. Stammen told reporters at Phoenix, we don't know, we'll find out. He threw the bullpen afterward, which is a little ironic. That's not your typical on your first rehab start. So what I keyed in on is, I think he was at a point where maybe he was scared, maybe worried, maybe hurt. And to me, that quote paints a picture of a guy who had an elbow thing in April and isn't super confident in it, right? It's either he knows for a fact that my elbow's at 75-80% at best, or that there's a little mental roadblock that most athletes deal with on the way back, right? So that worries me. Not much else to add. I personally don't think Joe has much left in him, but I love to be proven wrong. But even, without Joe and Nick, I think we have the tools to make the wild card, right? Especially given how well Randy has been lately. Somebody made a comment on one of my posts. I don't remember who it was, so if I forgot who it was, if you're listening, I apologize for not quoting you directly, but it really does seem like Randy's stepped up since the trade deadline. Hey, AJ went out and got 2 starters. I haven't been good. And Randy's been solid, right? He went 5, I think, against Arizona, could have easily went 6. Or was that against Houston? He went 5 and could have easily went 6. And I think
Houston was 5.
He went 6 against Arizona, right? So I think we're okay. Obviously, are we a better ball club with a healthy Pivetta and a healthy Joe Musgrove at, if provided they're still, what they were before injury? Absolutely. But even if they don't come back, I think AJ Preller did enough to push us into at least the wild card round, right? So let's switch lanes a little bit. Let's talk about the previous series.
Can
go
I
ahead.
slide in one more thing
Yeah.
on Pivetta real quick? Is I want to remind everybody listening, because I'm definitely guilty of this too. The minute he got hurt, right, and we knew that he was going to miss long term, a good amount of time, we started thinking about his deadline, right? That August 22nd,
Yeah.
I believe it was.
Great point.
And for anyone who isn't familiar, if there are any of you, basically his contract next year, if he comes back before August 22nd, which we can probably rule out at this point, his contract next year is a player option. If he does not come back before August 22nd, it is a club option.
Or void.
And so or void. Yes,
Yeah.
we could void the deal.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, obviously the team would like the flexibility,
Yeah.
right? But we're going to support our guys, and we did what we could to help them get back, and it seemed like it's not working quite well.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us have been super fixated on that August 22nd deadline, and forgetting that there are 40 more games of the regular season, and there's a postseason after that, assuming we're half decent.
Yeah.
Just because he doesn't make this deadline doesn't mean that he's dead,
Valid point.
right?
Valid point.
It doesn't mean his arm
Yeah.
is a noodle.
Yeah.
So there certainly is a world where he does miss the deadline and he may not be a part of the Padres' future because of worries about
Yeah.
that arm. But he could still be a part of the postseason roster,
Agreed.
and maybe even the roster at the end of the season.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
Pavetta's not fully gone.
Yeah.
And maybe if he's good enough, we decide to keep that 14. But
Yeah.
And I want him.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
like-
want him to be good.
I want
But-
Pivetta on the bump because Pivetta is the type of guy that you can have go in game one and he'll strike out 13 people over 6 innings
Yeah.
and look absolutely unhittable.
I
That is when Nick Pivetta is healthy, that is what he is capable of. Nick Pivetta, when healthy, let me just say this for anybody who doesn't know, is a Cy Young caliber pitcher and should be treated as such. Also, with the starting pitchers that are coming onto the free agent market, I don't know if there's going to be anybody who's particularly better than Nick Pivetta. I think Kevin Gossman is not.
Yeah.
And he's like the top guy.
I agree.
Other than Scoop.
I agree. I'm gonna wheel you back a little bit though for the Cy Young comment. Nick Pivetta is good. I don't know about Cy Young. He had his career year last year.
Hey,
where
he got
put it-
votes.
He got votes.
He got votes.
True.
He
But
finished top 10.
But I'm gonna pull you back just a little bit into reality because there's a lot of good pitchers in the National League, and I love the enthusiasm and the homerism, but I'm gonna wheel you back just a little bit. Last thing to touch on Nick,
Just out Hopium Billy.
I'm glad
That's
you
absurd.
Coop brought that up, but the last thing I do want to touch on Nick Pivetta, I personally think if he doesn't require Tommy John to get his elbow right, if he has Tommy John, he's gonna miss all of next year, point blank, right? So
Yeah.
I think voiding the contract would be smart. But if he doesn't require Tommy John, $14 million for Nick Pivetta next season is a bargain. $16 million for him in 2028 is also a bargain because he's going to get you when healthy 170 to 200 innings, right? And quality innings and a couple of quality starts mixed in with it. So, yeah, Nick is not by far dead, like Coop said. If he doesn't make the deadline, it just changes the strategy piece a little bit, right? As far as like what the Padres want to do and what he wants to do. Obviously, I also think, on the other end of it, the Padres have been notoriously very good at taking care of their players. So if he doesn't require Tommy John, he doesn't make the August 22nd deadline. I think they would do the right thing by just voiding it to let him see what he can get out there before coming back to the tables with us, right? So I think that's probably the route that we'll go. But enough about Nick Pivetta. Hope he comes back soon because we need him. But let's talk about the previous series recap. Let's start with Arizona. We split the 2 against Arizona, lost game 1, and then picked up the second win, lost game 3, and then picked up game 4 for a split. Talk to me about Arizona, boys. Let's start with Bob.
I thought Arizona could have gone better. I also think it could have gone worse. I think, a lot of people have counted out the Diamondbacks, but that's a good baseball team.
Yeah.
And they have legit star power. And I think you would have liked to see more from Casey Mize in his Padres debut. You would have liked to see, the offense maybe pick it up a little bit in game 1. I think we also got no hit or shutout through 7 innings by a rookie, which is never super awe-inspiring or super, hopium like filling. But I like the way the team bounced back in game 2. I think Randy had probably the biggest statement outing he's had since like June, where he saw, like Billy said, they brought in 2 pitchers and he really grabbed that spot in the rotation. I feel like by the horns. I think he has kind of, even though Walker balled out in game 2 of the Brewer set, I think he's sort of edged Walker, at least for me personally. And then, an offensive outpouring, and Randy shows what happens when you give a good pitcher a lead.
Yeah.
Michael King looked great in his game. And I think Walker did great. Walker's numbers at Chase Field are really good. If you haven't seen him, I think his ERA is under 3 and he's won 7 games there. So I feel pretty good that we took 2 off a great team that we're battling with in that final wild card spot. And it set us up nicely to come home and play what we all sort of looked around and agreed with, other than coming up to the trade deadline. This is like the most important home set in quite a long time.
Yep.
Houston is a great team, and Milwaukee's a great team, and being able to take 2 off of the Diamondbacks, I think, really got the boys fired up a little bit to come home and play some good baseball on a weekend in San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go to you, Coop, the last win to split the series was super important because it pulled us into 5-5 on the regular season series, which will be important for tiebreakers down the line. But talk to me about Arizona, Coop.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit, Bob. I don't think Michael King looked that great. If I remember correctly, he went 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 5 Ks.
I think he made one
Just
mistake,
the
right?
3 earned runs. It was that one 3-run bomb, but
Yeah.
like he still let the bases load up, so it's not the worst.
Yeah.
Um, but it's still giving up those 3 runs, and that I mean, we only scored one, so
Yeah.
it's not like the offense supported him much. But I don't think it was stellar out of Michael King. My one big qualm with the Diamondback series was that Wednesday game, third game of the series. Casey Mize got whooped,
Yeah.
and obviously we saw a lot of pitchers around the league who got moved at the deadline have bad first starts.
Hmm.
But I have a little bit of beef with Stammen on this one. I don't get why we waited so long for Casey to start
Yeah. No,
because
Robbie Ray as
he was
well.
already on, and Robbie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Casey was already on 5 or 6 days rest
Much
when we
longer.
got him.
12. Oh,
Was it?
yeah. It was like,
Oh, you're giving me a 1-2. I thought you were giving
yeah,
me a 3.
it was over.
I'm
But
sorry.
No, it was over a week by the deadline, but by the time he started, it was 12 days between starts. So
yeah,
2 full turns of the
so like
rotation. Yeah.
obviously rest is good,
Yeah.
but it gets to a point where a pitcher falls out of their rhythm, right?
No,
There's a
absolutely.
reason that we've decided a baseball starting rotation is 5 pitchers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like obviously there's teams that fluctuate a little bit. Maybe some team has 6 studs and so everyone gets an extra day, or they have an awful team and so they run bullpen games. I think it was the Rays were kind of the first ones to go ham on bullpen games,
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 years ago it was. Um, but you leave a pitcher out for 12 days
Yeah.
and he comes in and gets whooped, and I wasn't expecting it to be that bad. I think you went 3 1/3, um, 9 hits, 8 runs, or 8 earned runs, and only 1 K.
Yeah.
But you don't trot a guy out there. You don't make him wait 12 days. Like, so I wasn't a big fan of that. And we'll talk about it later. But Casey did bounce back. I'm not worried about Casey long term by any means. Um, but 100% splitting that series with the Rockies was huge. Like Bill said, for tiebreakers, moving forward, getting that, because I don't think we play them again this year. I think that's all.
We do.
Last
Is
seven.
that all
We
4
do.
series?
We do.
Oh,
We close
do?
we close the
There's one more?
season with
Okay.
them, and I'll touch base. We'll touch on that later because that's going to be a huge series for us to close out the
Yeah.
season. But
So
yeah.
so winning that series, just to, if there's any tiebreaker,
Yeah.
Fugaze, anything,
Yep.
winning that last series will be massive.
Will be massive. Absolutely.
And putting us in a position where we don't need to sweep
Yeah.
that series
Yeah.
is great to see.
Yeah. I'll touch a little bit on Casey Mize. As you guys know, I was very heavily campaigning for him, right? Like, if we're gonna trade for anybody without any control beyond this year, Casey Mize is my guy that I identified. Basically, we went and got Tariq Schoolbowl from Wish.com, if you will. No disrespect, Casey. You're not Tariq. You're good. Yeah, I wonder that as well. Did we fly our guys in from, on Spirit Airline after the deadlines because they came in super late? Schoolbowl pretty much got
Robbie
to
came with the team from San Diego.
right.
Robbie came with the team. There's no excuse on him.
Absolutely. But like, if you think about it, like, the minute Schoolbowl's trade was announced, the next day you saw him hugging Doc in the dugout. So why did it take so long for Casey and Robbie to get here? But the other aspect of it, we touched about this in previous shows. These guys are completely creatures of habits. You skip one start, maybe, you skip 2 starts and it's like, okay, like all the rhythm that's been built up, suddenly gone. So I thought we could have taken 3 out of 4 against Arizona. Happy that we got the split. The Mize game was strange too because Brat like shut us down for the most part of it, outside of Casey getting shelled. But also historically, soft tossing lefties has our number. We just can't hit them. We can only hit guys that throws 99 or 100, I guess. But glad we got that split. As I alluded to earlier, it pulls us to 5-5 on the season, which sets us up, to control our own destiny at the end of the season, right? With them, being the last series that we play in the season. I do think they come here in September. I have to double check that. But let's jump into Houston.
Okay.
Houston, we took 2 out of 3. By the way, I started the season 0-2. when I went to Padres game, won 7 in a row, and now I'm in the midst of a 7-game losing streak. So I'm 7-9 in the year. I did go to that game. I for the greater good, I'm probably not going to go to any games for the rest of the season. So if you have free tickets, do not hit me up. I will not take them. I repeat, if you have free tickets, do not hit me up. My DM is at Bluey. Do not hit me up. I will not take them. I just, for the greater good, I won't go. But
Hey, I'll take them. I'm still positive on the year. So slide
but
over to me.
but talk to me about Houston. Let's start with you, Coop.
Yeah. The Houston series, it was one where I went into it thinking we could win 2 here.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a test, right? They're a team that I believe they are still on top of a quite mid division over in
Mhm.
the American League. I'm pulling it up on my monitor here to triple check,
They're
make
one
sure I'm
game
not
up on
feeding
the
y'all any
Rangers. I got
false
you.
info.
Yeah, they're one game up on the Rangers at
Perfect. Yeah.
62 and 60. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
So
as mid
they're
as
not
they
in a
come.
great spot either.
Yeah.
Yeah, just over 500. A team
780.
that has always played us relatively close.
Yeah.
I feel like we've never really like stomped on the Astros.
Mhm.
But we came in 1, 2 out of 3, and a couple of them looked like really, really good wins.
Yeah.
On the Saturday game that we won, that was one where we did give up a run in the ninth, but we were able to hold on to it after a really strong opening to the game, putting up 3 through 4 innings. And then we won pretty, if I'm remembering correctly, we won pretty strong to close out that series, going into the series against Milwaukee.
Yep.
Which I certainly think was a confidence boost. Putting up 7 runs,
Yeah.
it's always going to feel good for an offense. I think putting up anything more than 4 is going to feel like a really, really strong positive day.
Yeah.
And we were able to do that on Sunday. I'm sure Bob and Bill, you might remember some more specifics from that series. I was locked in on another tournament at the same time. My sleep schedules were kind of cooked.
Yeah.
But I was tuning as much as I could, and it was a really good series win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Houston series went well. I think a lot of people were very excited to see Robbie Ray debut at home, and it didn't really go the way a lot of people planned. And, to just be completely honest, the Astros, particularly Jose Altuve and Jordan Alvarez, have kind of had Ray's number.
Yeah.
If you look at the stats, Jose Altuve, he's 10 for 27 with a OPS north of 15, 1.5 against Robbie Ray.
Mhm.
That's a guy who played in Seattle, and they're in the same division. They played each other a lot. So I wasn't really expecting a dominant outing, but I definitely was left wanting something more. And the offense just came out flat. And then game 2 is a completely different story. Michael King shoved, and he looked great.
Yeah.
Got a quality start, and Jackson Merrill provided all of the firepower for the offense.
Yeah.
And the kid is so locked in right now. I don't know where this came from.
Yeah.
Those high fastballs that he used to swing and just be under every single time. They really tried throwing those to him, and he sent them all the way to the moon.
Yeah.
And, I want to give big shout outs to Jackson Merrill, who is just on an absolute tear
Yeah.
right now. And the kid is on pace to have a career year. And then in the final game of the set, Sunday night, Randy looked great. Randy put up 5 innings of 2-run ball, and the one big knock was that homer to Varsho, but after that, Vasquez, Hart, Rodriguez, and Estrada combined for 22 batters retired in a row.
Yeah.
And you could hear Peavy and Jason Benetti on the broadcast, who did a great job, by the way. That was the first time all season we've had a national game where I've been like, these broadcasters are killing it. Shout out Jake Peavy, love you forever.
Yeah.
And they were like, these guys are throwing like a bullpen Maddox game right now. I think it was the 6, 7, 8, 9. We all got through in pretty much under 12 pitches. There were the 7 and 8. It was 7 apiece. And these guys were just mowing through a very good Astros lineup. This is a lineup that has Jordan Alvarez, who's going to have a year that we haven't seen since black and white television.
Yep.
He's leading American League in every meaningful batting stat. And they just came out and shoved. And I think, we saw Nando just absolutely annihilate a baseball.
Mhm.
He hit one.
Oh my God, it was
way
beautiful.
second.
Yeah.
And, I think we're seeing a lot of these guys get their power back and are on this absolute insane beam right now. All the guys are gelling and moving in the same direction. And I think when this team is doing that, it's very scary. This Astros team, they had won, I think, 13 out of their last 17 when they came into San Diego.
Yeah.
And they won the first one, and we won the last 2 in pretty dominant fashion. You might look at the box score and say a win, 7-2 and 3-5 isn't like crazy, but like watching the games, it was all Padres the whole way, the entire way.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling really good about that. I think, it was cool to see Josh Hader again. And, happy that they're out of town.
Yeah. So the Houston series for me, game 2. So I said about a month ago that this team isn't as bad as everybody thinks it is, right? Especially with the offense kind of heating up in July, towards the middle of July. I'm like, oh, okay, well, Manny's getting going, Jackson's getting going, Fernando has always gotten going, but the power is back. Ty France emerged, so I'm like, this team is not that bad, right? We still have Morhone and Miller at the back of the bullpen to rely on to hold close leads in the 8th and the 9th, right? So we're a couple starters away from competing, right? Game 2 of that Houston series is why everybody Padre fans should be excited. Every faithful should be filled with hopium, right? Because this is the formula. The offense does enough, and Michael King goes 6, gives up 1 run, gets the win. Estrada comes in for 2/3 of an inning, got a hold. Wasn't the cleanest inning, but got the job done. Marhone came in, got a hold, 1 1/3. Wasn't a super clean inning. He did walk 1, right? And then Mason Miller coming in for the save. Again, not a super clean inning, but you're operating. So when you have 3 guys back there that you can rely on for the 7th, 8th, and 9th, it effectively shortens the rest of the game where your offense has to just do enough, right? Your offense either does enough and gives them a little bit of room for margin of error, which they did because it was a 3-1 game. Miller gave up the run in the 9th, still got the save, right? So if you're looking at like the formula of what postseason Padres baseball could look like and what that success could look like, this is it. Your starter King goes 6, Estrada, Mahone, and Miller comes in the 6th, 7th, or 7th, 8th, and 9th and holds it down, right? And then you have a Jason Adam where you could throw him in the 5th inning if you need him to, or the 6th inning if you need him to, and have 4 pitchers back there that you could really lean on. So I think like if you're looking for a game that will give you the hopium, I think this game 2 of the Astros series is it, because the offense will go cold. That's just baseball. You're not going to put up 10 runs every game, right? But you certainly feel a lot more comfortable when you have a King, a Mize, a Robbie Ray that you can rely on to get you 6 innings, to get you to Estrada, Marhone, Miller, right? And the game effectively becomes a lot shorter where the offense has to just do enough. So I'm full of hopium just because like the pitching has been addressed, and we still have that monster bullpen back there, right? Pending whenever Jason comes back. Let's talk about the Brewers. We just came off the Brewers. We swept the best team in baseball, or I know some people will argue with the best team in baseball, so I'm gonna go ahead and say we swept a team with the best record in baseball. Let's start with you, Coop, this time. Talk to me about what we just witnessed. We could do the whole series. Talk to me about this crazy walk-off. Tell me all about it.
Well, for starters, you can't be the best team in baseball if you're on such a losing skid like the Dodgers are. So I'm confident saying the Brewers are currently the best team in baseball, and we just swept those bastards. But yes, beautiful series win. Beautiful series win out of the Padres. Beautiful series sweep. I ran to the garage to find my broom. I felt like Padres blogger out there, right? I'm sure y'all have seen his videos. Running out. I got to go find his from today. I'm sure there's one out there. But great series win over these last few days. Obviously, games 2 and 3 particularly stand out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, game 2, it's as simple as we put up 11 runs.
Yeah.
On Kyle Harrison, I believe it was.
Dominated
right? Kyle
us
Harrison?
the last start. Yeah, he dominated us.
Yes, Kyle Harrison was,
Milwaukee.
and he's been gross all year.
Yeah.
I mean, coming into the game, I think he had a 2.8 ERA, and coming out of it, he had a 3.5.
Yeah. And he just came off a start where he went 5 and struck out 10 and left early because both his legs cramped up or whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So beautiful win. The first game of the series was close. It was a 3-2 win. Where the Brewers only used they only used 2 pitches because we didn't need that bottom.
Henderson was dealing, yeah.
But Henderson had a great game. I think he struck out 7 and went like 6 and change.
Yeah.
So it was a tightly contested game for sure. Like we already talked about, Jackson Merrill came through clutch with a big 2-run bomb. Was it the 7th? I think he hit it in.
Yep.
It was late in the game for sure, and we saw Casey Mize back to play. He put up, I believe it's still considered a quality start, even though I
was.
think quality starts are kind of a dumb metric, because you can have a 4.5 ERA and get quality starts every single outing. But I digress. He went 6 innings, only gave up 2 runs and had 6 Ks in that time. And our 3-man formula looked a little bit different. It was a Yuki, Morihone, Miller push.
Yep.
But none of them gave up a run. Win that game close, and I was like, all right. I thought maybe we get one in this series. I don't remember what I said on the pod last time, so if that doesn't line up with what I said before, ignore what I said before.
Yeah.
I didn't think we'd come out of here winning much more than
No.
one, maybe 2, because it's the best team in baseball. But game 2, we mollywopped them. We put up 11 runs, and then today we were able to walk them off. It was just a beautiful set of 3 days of baseball.
Yeah.
And one that gets me very excited.
Yeah.
As it capped off, like we said, going 15-4 in our last 19, as well as jumping 6 teams in the wild card race
Yep.
over that span.
Huge.
Which includes teams like the Marlins, right, who we swept to start that 15-4 run. The Diamondbacks and Phillies, who have both lost a couple games, and so we've been able to take sole possession
Yep.
of that second wild card slot. The Cubs are still a little bit ahead of us, so I don't know how much movement we'll be able to get on them to take that 4th seed, but the 4th, 5th game is the 4th, 5th game no matter what, right? It's just
Yeah.
about who gets to play at home.
Yeah.
Home baseball would always be great, but
Yeah.
either way, looks like if we stick where we're at, we're probably playing the Cubs in that wild card series.
Yeah. So as of right now, they're 6.5 ahead of us. It would take a monumental collapse in the next like 7 weeks, 6-7 weeks of baseball for them to fall out of it. I would personally not like to go into Wrigley again. In a wild card series, I think the fans of San Diego deserve a home postseason game, even if it's just a couple. Right. I think these fans have shown up in record numbers the past couple of seasons. One of the biggest bummer of last year is we didn't get to witness home baseball for postseasons. But anyways, Bob, talk to me about Milwaukee.
This series had everything.
Yeah.
And I think from game 1, the biggest note that I want to take away is that Casey Mize looked great. And his stuff that we saw that was passing the eye test in Arizona was missing more barrels. And this is sort of what we can come to expect from Casey now that he's, like you said, Billy, back in his routine. And he knows where he fits in, and he knows sort of what the game plan going into every start is going to be.
Yeah.
And, there's one thing that this Brewers team does incredibly well is they put pressure on you and they play chaos ball. They are run happy. They will hit and run. They will steal third. They will double steal. And, for the most part, they didn't really have a lot of opportunities to do that. He walked 2 guys. The home run came on I think it was a slider.
Yeah.
That he missed. And it was just, it hung in the middle, and it was to Christian Yelich.
Yeah.
Say what you want about him. He's a former MVP.
Yeah.
Dude can ball. And, I think, when Jackson stepped in after Ty France worked that walk, we were all sort of like, waiting. And I think that this is the biggest home run Jackson Merrill has hit this year.
Yeah.
And not just in terms of distance, in terms of, bat speed, whatever, because it had all that. I mean, he hit it like fucking 450 to pass the batter's eye. But like, Merrill finally stepped into that moment this year like he had done in his rookie season, and he was clutch, and he provided exactly what we needed. And, after that point, the air was out of the ballgame.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't really gotten to Casey. And then Yuki came in and he threw a great inning. Adrian gave up 1 hit, and Mason locked it down.
Yeah.
And I think, coming out of that game, it's very easy to be like, yeah, one swing of the bat changes everything. But also, this is a team that hasn't done that a lot this year.
Yeah.
And we're scoring a lot of runs via the long ball. It was every single run in this game. And also on Sunday, we scored on home runs. That was 10 runs that we scored on home runs in the period of 2 days.
Yeah.
And, Ty France hit an absolute laser beam earlier in the game to get us going and get us on the board. But game 2, you saw all that break open. It was the best, most ecstatic I've felt about this team all year. It was like every single at bat was a present on Christmas Day,
Yeah.
and everybody contributed. I want to give the biggest shout out in the world to Luis Rengifo, who has been an absolute stud since we picked him up after the Brewers released him. And I
Revenge
can't
game.
imagine how good it feels to hit a grand slam, a go ahead,
Yeah. Revenge game.
former team that cut you.
Yeah.
And that
First
was
of
his
his
first
career too, right? Yeah.
Yep, first of his career. And I
Yeah.
love that, like, as he was stepping into the box, Mud sort of put it out into the universe and was like, he doesn't have a grand slam on his resume. And then, bam, he delivered. Putting up 11 runs the way that we did, like, so quick, fast. It was a volley of gappers, home runs. Everything was working. We had 41 at bats. We scored 11 runs, had 17 hits, and we worked 3 walks and struck out 5 times.
Yep. Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
No complaints.
And then today, usually the Padres come out flat after putting up double-digit runs. This is the first time we've won after putting up double-digit runs, and what a way to do it. Ray struggled a little bit. He went full count pretty much on every other batter he faced. He had 89 pitches when he left after 4 innings of work, but he kept us close.
Yep.
He kept us within fighting distance. And, if anything else, it's all you can ask. And then the bullpen comes in, and it was everybody. It
Yep.
was Kyle Hart, Estrada, Morahone through 2 innings. Miller came out and shut down the 9th. And it's just such a team collective
Yeah.
win is the thing that I love most about it.
Yeah.
Is that, like, there wasn't one, humongous moment other than, like, I think maybe when Jake reached when the bases were loaded and Nando scored from second, just taking advantage, sort of giving the Brewers a taste of their own medicine.
Yep.
But also, you just saw so many competitive at-bats. Luis Rengifo had a humongous at-bat to work a walk to put us in position to score that run. And, when you get into extra innings, the Brewers have played more extra innings baseball than anybody, and they've won 9 of those games. They've played 13. So this is a team that executes extremely well. And, we beat them to it. And, I think there were a couple moments where you could point out, like, why did we do this? Why did we do that? Like, especially Jace Bowen pinch hitting when you could have replaced him for a pinch runner. But he still made contact, and if there was one out, he probably would have got the job done. And, like, huge shout out to Campy. We're a totally pro Campusano podcast, and Campy has shown up in a big way this entire second half, and he delivered the walk-off today.
Yeah.
I believe that's his first one of his career, his first walk-off hit, and couldn't have happened to a better guy. A guy who has just been in the organization for such a long time, who has been grinding for such a long time, who is finally getting a real shot for the first time in years, and he stepped up and delivered.
Yeah.
Coming out of the Brewers series, because it felt like whenever we would win, everybody above us would win. We finally got separation and took sole possession of that 4th wild card, or the 2nd wild card, 4th spot, or 5th spot. Because Philadelphia and Arizona both lost.
Yep.
And now they're duking it out to see who gets into that final spot. And we have just the tiniest amount of breathing room coming up on a very favorable road trip. So I think if you're not jazzed, you don't like baseball. This is everything you want. It is good offense, great defense, Jake Cronenworth laying it all on the line, playing the keystone, and then, showing up in a big way in the batter's box when we needed him.
Yeah, I think, we talk a lot about the obvious guys in the back of the bullpen with Morhone and Miller. We would probably be not doing, ourselves any favor by not calling out how good Bradley and Yuki and even Wandy has been in their roles this year, right? Bradley has a 2.13 earned run in 55 innings. Yuki has a 2.35 earned run in 46 innings. Wandy 3.39 in 61 innings. Has started a couple games for us this season as the opener. Yes, Estrada. We know Estrada's good. We know Adams good. We know Mahone. We know what we have in Miller. We know those guys are the 4 horsemen of that bullpen, right? But it's comforting to know if we're trailing by 1 or 2, we could throw a Bradley in there or a Yuki or a Wandy in there to eat a couple innings until it becomes a high leverage situation and we have the high leverage guys. So Bradley, Yuki, and Wandy has been every bit of like that high leverage B team. And has done that super well. Milwaukee, my opinion on Milwaukee, I If you told me that we were gonna sweep them, I would have slapped your mother. Like what? Like, you know what I mean? The first game, it felt like, oh my god, here we go. We're gonna lose. We're gonna lose this pitcher duel, and then Jackson came in with that clutch home run. I want to talk about Casey Mize a little bit. I think we saw uh why we were all so excited about Casey at the deadline. He's not going to blow you away with 99, 100. He does pump it up there with 96 or so. But the thing that stood out to me is his splitter is filthy. 24% usage rate this season. It just drops off the table. Very good, like put him away pitch. His slider is really good. His fastball, if he locates, is really good as well. As I said, he could get it up to 96. Saw a slur from him. He doesn't throw it a lot, but I did like the movement on it. So maybe something that he's developing. The first start in Arizona, Casey has been with the Tigers organization for 10 years. Anybody would kind of have their brain all jumbled up after moving to a new job after 10 years, new city. So is expected. But that second start against Milwaukee, unfortunate that he didn't get the win. He dealt, and he gives me a lot of hope as far as like what's to come going forward. As of right now, if I had to pick somebody to give the ball to in game one of a playoff game of the Wildcard series, it would be Casey, hands down. I think Casey over Michael. Obviously game two, the BTA game. And then today the thriller, how did I focus at work? If you're my boss, I wasn't watching the game. I was working while I was working, wasn't watching the game.
100%.
Working while I was working. Great
Yeah,
comes. Great comes, Bill.
working while I was working. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if you look at it, the one thing I don't want us to like get away from talking about before we conclude about the Brewer series, Nando scored from second on that play. He scored from second on that play. The heads up to like, I'm gonna keep running. There's 2 outs in case something happens. The hustle. Yeah, I cannot say enough good things about like Nando made that win happen by hustling, right? So what I saw too, though, like the past 2 series overall, we're our rotation stabilizing. We have guys that can get us 5, get us 6 without giving up 10 runs. The bullpen is our bullpen. But the biggest piece really is just the offense, like has been incredible, and we'll dive into that a little bit here shortly here. But since the All-Star break, the Padres leaders in home run is Jackson Merrill with 9. Fernando is behind him with 7, and Ty has 6. So the powers get in there. Yeah, I to say to call a middle of August series a statement series, I feel like is a little bit of a hyperbole, but this is every bit of a statement series. This is letting the rest of the National League know, hey, we're here too, and we want to a shot at this postseason. So we're trending in that direction, and I would be stoked. First time in franchise history, 3 consecutive postseason, it would be massive, right? So let's kind of switch gears. I think we talked about the previous series a little bit too much. Let's talk about the offense. The offense, in my opinion, really got into gear in July, and then it's kind of just carried on to August, right? Talk to me a little bit about that, fellas. Let's start with you, Coop. What are you seeing from this offense? What changed?
Yeah. As far as what changed, I think that, I mean, our big 4 are back, right? Manny not quite as much. But
He's cool.
Toddy, we saw him, and we've said it a few times, right? The whole Toddy is settling into the 90s leadoff guy thing, but now he's also raking.
Yeah.
Like this is one of the better iterations of Tatis that we've seen. I posted about it a few days ago on Threads, but Jackson Merrill since the All-Star break is, I mean, if anybody had that season and they didn't win MVP, I would be shocked.
Yeah.
Right. And looking at it more just a broad level, when you talk about how we ranked in the in terms of all MLB teams, from month over month offensive numbers, right? Pretty much any number you can think of that's relevant, whether it's average, OPS, runs, home runs, whatever it may be, we would sit at any kind of between like 15th and 30th, right? More 20th to 30th in pretty much any of those numbers in March, April. I mean, March, there's only 3, 4 games, but March, April, May, and June. And then you look at July, and it's a whole different ball club. Almost every stat you can think of on the offensive side, we are in the top 10, if not the top 5, if not third, second, first. And I think a lot of that is due to, like I said, the big four coming back. Bats we've brought in being huge. We talked about Rengifo earlier
Yep.
and how big he's been. Even outside of that Grand Slam, he's been a great bat to have in our lineup. The Ty France resurgence. I mean, he hasn't been bad a lot of the rest of the year, but again, we talk about since the All-Star break, he's putting up absurd numbers. I think he's batting like 370 now
Yeah.
since the All-Star break. Um, so it's just the guys are doing what they're supposed to do, along with a little bit of potential overperformance from some of those guys in the middle. And when you mix that with bringing in 2 starters, you see a ball club that is a hell of a lot better than the team we were watching in May.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an old adage, but it's the team who gets hot at the right time. And I think if you look at a lot of the World Series champions as of late, or teams that have even made the Fall Classic, it's teams that play their best baseball in August leading up to September, sizzling in July, getting hot in August, and sustaining it into September.
Yeah.
I think the biggest number that jumps out to me is since the All-Star break, the Padres are first in batting average, they're first in on-base percentage, they're first in runs scored. Like, this team is humming. And I don't know what Steven Souza Jr. did. I don't know what him and Craig Stammen did. Maybe the guys just all decided to, finally start swinging with their hands pointing up to launch the ball, but we're raking.
Yeah.
And I think, looking at all this stuff that happened, especially in the June skid and into May, this team was on track to have one of the worst offensive seasons of all time. Like the worst offensive season in the history of Padres baseball, a team that has been around since 1969. And we immediately flipped that script. I think, there's a lot of things you could point to, but it is that Jackson Merrill's hitting 340 with a 1.1 OPS right now, and that Tatis has found his power and he's hit 4 home runs in the last 7 games, and that we have these guys in the middle of the lineup like in Austin Hayes, who comes in and pinch hits in the Houston series. And his first at bat as a Padre, he goes yard into the basket of the Western Medical building. And it's sort of just like this vibe that the guys have right now. It's sort of that same vibe we felt early in May in the season when we walked off 6 games. That any lead, we can wipe that away, no problem. Anybody on this team, they feel comfortable with them swinging a bat with runners in scoring position. And those numbers are reflective. I mean, when we had our best run of baseball, we were averaging 4.6 runs a game. And if you jump all the way to now, in July, we averaged 5. And if you're looking at August just started, we're doing better, and it's 5.18. So, this team knows how to play small ball. We have people who can do that. This team also has people who absolutely rake when they really turn it on.
Yeah.
And I think, Jake Peavy was saying it on the broadcast, this is the first time this year where this lineup has looked complete and long on paper and in product. We always had the names on paper. You always had the Machados, Merrills, Tatis, and everybody. Even last year, they're like, whenever the Padres get hot, they're the most dangerous team outside of the Dodgers, outside of the Phillies in the National League. And now you're seeing that. I mean, we just tore a new one in the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that has a stacked pitching staff, a great bullpen, and they always have creative players every year who hit 300.
Yeah.
Just random guys from Des Moines, Iowa, who come up and hit 314. So I think everything that you want to see with a playoff team is within this nucleus. And, it's hard to not start looking at the schedule ahead of us and being like, if we continue to play, even if we regress to the mean, we will play above 500, possibly even close to 575, 600 baseball in the end of the month, because we have a lot of winnable series coming up that we're going to touch on later. And we're in the perfect position, getting hot at the right time to really not just make up ground on the Cubs possibly, but put distance between us, the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us from March to June was like, if the big three gets going, if only the big three gets going, right, then we'll be cool, right? I feel like this team, even through the slump, has always had supporting guys that stepped up, right? Like Gavin was pretty hot early on, Xander was pretty hot early on, Lou Campazano was pretty good early on. And then you throw in, guys that contribute later on, like Samad, Rahifo, and now Jake, right? So, the big three, they're back to what we expect them to do, right? Coop said Nando was turning into this prototypical '90s leadoff guy. Now he's like slugging the ball. Well, Ricky Henderson did a little bit of that too in the '90s, right? With those leadoff home runs, right? So, having a Ricky Henderson at the top of your lineup, not going to complain about it. I think that's a good thing for us, right?
Not a bad
But
spot.
yeah, but it's the emergence of a Ty France, right? It's an emergence of a Rengifo. It's post IL Jake Cronenworth, who's been better than any of us could have asked for, right? You look at these number post All Star break. Ty France is hitting 354 with a 996 OPS, 6 home runs, 18 RBIs, multiple multi hit games sprinkled in there, right? Jackson Merrill, 1.031 OPS, 9 home runs, 25 ribbies, 35 hits in that stretch. Fernando's hitting 292 with a 1.002 OPS, 7 bombs, 20 ribbies, stolen 5 bases in that instance. Rengifo has an 881 OPS. Our catchers, Campy's got an 864 OPS. Ramin's got an 825 OPS post All Star break. So, as Bob said, this lineup feels complete. Even if Jackson goes 0 for 4, even if Nando goes 0 for 5, even if Manny goes 0 for 5, you could trust a Ty to pick you up. You could trust a Jake Cronenworth to pick you up. You could trust a Luis Campazano to pick us up, in which he did today, right? So, this offense is for real. We knew what we had in Jackson and Fernando. It's just a matter of when, right? Like we knew these guys were going to be the face of the franchise going forward. And it's great seeing Jackson just being red hot. Like he is single handedly carrying this offense as of late. So, yeah. So I mean, how could you not feel good about this offense with just with what it's done since the All Star break, and now we have pitchers that could get us 5 innings. We have pitchers that can get us 6 innings, and dare I say sometimes 7, right? But even if they don't get us 7, we have that bullpen that is gonna come in and lock things down. So offense trending up,
And
definitely encouraging. Yeah,
one more thing, something that you brought up, Billy, that I hadn't even thought about is that this stretch between the second game in Houston
yeah,
up until today was the first time since I think it was May
hmm
12th through the 17th that the Padres have had pitchers go at least
yep,
4 days in a row.
good call out.
Um,
Yeah,
and you know what happened in Seattle in the first game in LA when we did that? We won
yeah,
all of them.
yeah,
And what happened between now or the game 2 of the Houston series and now we won all of them.
yeah,
This is what that team looks like. And
yeah.
there's one number that totally encapsulates all of this offensive stuff. It's called weighted runs created plus.
hmm
Like most things, it's a rate stat. 100 is average. Coming in to the All-Star break, we were tied for 28th with the worst in baseball with a 90. We had a 90 WRC plus. That was 28th in baseball. So we were 10% worse than the average offense in baseball.
Yeah.
Post All-Star break, we're number 1.
Yeah.
With a 130.
Yeah.
And the gap is not small.
Yep.
This team is 30% better than an average offense in baseball since July 17th.
Yeah.
So I think this is sort of more of what we should expect to see coming down the line. Maybe
Agreed.
not as hot, but maybe like a 115.
Yeah.
Like just 15% to 10% better than league average.
Yeah, but even if it's not as hot, I just feel like we have the squad that will hang around that are they're gonna be scrappy and they're gonna fight and they're gonna keep fighting, right? A lot of 7th, 8th, 9th inning run in this recent stretch that we've been scoring. So, Cardiac Padres is what they are. Now we just have the pitching that can keep us in the game for these bats to have a chance, right? When you're down, 3 4, 5, 6, 7, a little bit harder to come back. But if you stay in the game and you're down 2, down 1, like today, like as we all watched this game today, which one of us didn't think like there's a big hit coming, right? Like so, it's got every like characteristic of a team that can go deep in the postseason. And I'm definitely excited to like see where the next like month and a half of baseball goes. Knock on wood, no injuries involved or anything like that. But let's shift into gears a little bit about the upcoming series, and we could kind of skim through these real quick. We got Cleveland, we got the Mets, and then we got the Twins coming up probably before our next recording here. So um talk to me about the Guardians, Coop. They're not a cakewalk. If anybody thinks this is a cakewalk, they're not. We're going into Cleveland, but talk to me about the Guardians.
Yeah, no, we had some conversations on threads about this. How it's definitely not a cakewalk series, even if they're under 500. It's always tough to play in Progressive Field. Um, but the thing that I think makes them a little more strong, even though, like I said, they are under 500, they very much have something to play for.
Yep.
They're only 4 games back from winning their division, or leading their division, excuse me. So they're, and with how weak the American League is, like if any of y'all haven't looked, look at the National League standings, look at the teams that are winning, and look at the teams that are like second,
Yeah.
and then look at the American League. It is not close.
Yeah.
I believe the Padres would be winning, I think 2 out of the 3, if not every American League division right now.
Yeah.
It very lopsided. So they are very much in it, even though they're an under 500 ball club. They have something to play for. Looking at my advanced analytics a little bit and diving deep, Cleveland really excels when they push counts late, from their pitching side of things. And as we all know, we love swinging early, baby. So as long as we can catch early pitches, and sort of shut down their starters early, put some runs up early on the board, I think that really neutralizes their bullpen. Because a lot of what they do is drive up their starters and even their starters pitch counts, but their starters often go, 5 innings, 5 innings and change, and then they have a strong bullpen. If we can make them want to pull their offense early or pull their starter early, that changes things a lot. They also throw a lot of sinkers in effort to force ground balls because line drives are way more valuable than flies, um, in Cleveland. So as long as we can get under those pitches in the lower third, I think that kind of shuts down their infield alignment as they'll probably squeeze in a little bit. And that creates opportunities for us to run up the score quick. Um, like we said, not a cakewalk, but especially with the recent form, I think it's a very winnable series, and I'm giving the Padres 2 out of 3.
Awesome. Let's go to the Mets. Let's have Bob do this because he's pretty close to somebody who's a big Mets fan, right? So talk to us about the Mets.
What we were talking about a
There-
couple days ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
God.
somebody very near, and there's a couple people very near and dear
Yeah.
to my heart who love the New York Mets. My wife and my mother-in-law. So shout out Allie and Nancy. Sorry the Mets haven't been amazing this year. There's always next year. But we're cruising into City
Maybe not this
Field.
time. Maybe not this time.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's always 2028.
Yeah. Anyways,
Anyway,
if anything else, before Bob jumps into this, the Padres season has been a roller coaster. But if there's anything for us to take away from any of this stuff with baseball, it is better to be the San Diego Padres with a high payroll and this roller coaster than to be the New York Mets with a high payroll and a roller coaster that's just going down. But go ahead, Bob.
yeah, my wife calls it reverse Moneyball, just to spend as much as possible and be as terrible as you can be. Um, but here's the thing about the Mets is that they usually play us pretty well somehow or some way. The series are always competitive, and I think they took 2 out of 3, maybe even swept us early in the year when we were in that tailspin in June. Um, their bullpen allows the highest OBP in all of baseball, so we're gonna have a lot of opportunities with people in scoring position and on base. And I think, other than that, City Field is massive. That
Yeah.
outfield you could just get lost in for
Yeah.
days. And if we can find a way to get stuff into the gap, force action, I think their defense with the weird alignments that they play, we really could put up some crooked
Yeah.
numbers. Um, we're going to get a lot of walks. We're going to get a lot of pitches that are down in the zone that we can drive. A lot of their guys in their bullpen, they like to throw fastballs in the zone, which is stuff that we just hammer. And again, I think sweepers and sliders outside of the zone and down and away is stuff you have to watch out for us. We love swinging at those. Those
Yeah.
are pitches that you can drive, but sort of having the understanding that like that one's not going to be a good one is going to be really hard. And I think that this is definitely a series that we should win 2 out of 3 of. I think we will sweep, and I think I'm going to pay dearly for saying that on wax. I think I'm going to have somebody who's going to have some words with me. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, our bullpen versus their bullpen, it's not even close. Our offense right now
Yeah.
versus their offense, it's not even close right now.
Yeah.
Is a series we have to capitalize on. And if we go into New York and we come out flat, they can put up some big numbers. The Guardians, they swept them.
Yeah.
And they put up double-digit runs in every single game.
Yep.
Granted, they gave up double-digit runs in 2 of those, but they still scored a lot. So you got to navigate the lineup. Top of the lineup is still dangerous. It's still Juan Soto and Lindor. Juan Soto might be back. I'm not sure. But Lindor is raking right now. So just avoid that.
Yeah. So real quick, heading into this next road trip, we're gonna line up with King to open in Cleveland. It's gonna be Vasquez for the second game, and then we'll have Mize for the third game. We'll open with Bueller in New York, Robbie Ray, and then back to King, which lead us to Minnesota. Vasquez is scheduled to take the bump on the first game, but if we continue with this rotation, it looks like it's gonna be Mize for the middle game, and then Bueller to wrap up the series. I don't have much thoughts on the Twins. I thought the Twins were. A lot of us thought the Twins were going to be a team that was going to sell this deadline. With the rumors of Joe Ryan and Buxton, but it makes sense for them not to sell just because they're, despite being 2 games under 500 at the moment, they're only 1 out of the wild card. So, I don't think the Twins are going to be a cakewalk either. They have a lot of offensive firepower on that team. Buxton, as you know, is healthy and doing things. Cody Clemens is actually having a career year from Rogers' kid, right? Having a career year. So former Padre Josh Bell is on that team as well, putting up some respectable numbers. So I don't think the Twins are going to be that much of a cakewalk, but I definitely think 2 out of 3 is possible. Real quick, from all 3 of us, what do you think the outcome is for the next 3 series? Let's start with you, Coop.
Yeah. So I already noted on the Guardian series, and we're in agreement on the Mets series. I'm giving us 2 of 3 against the Guards. I have a sweep in the Mets, and I have us taking 2 of 3 against the Twins. The Twins are kind of the same deal as the Guardians. They're an under 500 ball club. At least last I looked, they were. I'll have to triple check. Yeah, they're still under 500, but they're only 3 games back in a hotly contested and incredibly mid American League Central.
Yeah.
So they have a bye that they could be playing for. But yeah, the Rays are definitely ahead there, but they if they win that division, there's a very real chance they get a bye. So they've got something to play for, and they swing the bat quick.
Yeah.
like surprisingly quick. And therefore they whiff on high register heat a lot. So I think the biggest key for the Padres to win the series is going to be fastballs above the hands with changeups and splitters following. If I remember correctly, Bill, you said Casey would not be up in that series, or he would?
Mize would be. He'd be the middle game of the Twin series. Yeah.
He'd be the middle game.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do really like that because Mize's splitter, I don't know, it kind of gives me the same feeling as Mason's slider.
Yeah.
Like not quite to the same degree, but it's in there. It's like, oh my god,
it's filthy, and I wish he throws it more. I posted a couple clips on it. The way it just dives, and it's not a slow splitter. Like Jeremiah throws a slow splitter, 78 to 82. The splitter averages 88 miles per hour, so like on the level of like a Yamamoto splitter if you think of like a really elite splitter baller. What do you got for the next 3 series predictions, Bob?
I think we're going to win 7 out of 9.
Okay.
I think the game I'm worried about is game 1 in Cleveland versus Gavin Williams. He has 10 strikeout games. There's nobody else in baseball who has that many.
Yeah.
Not even the Miz.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to be cautious
Yeah.
with our expectations for that one. But we said 2 out of 3 is the expectation. I think
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen. I do think we take all 3 from the Mets, and I
Yeah.
do think that we win the series in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I don't really see a way where we go under 5 wins.
Yeah.
I think that's like the worst.
Yeah.
And I see a very, like in my Doctor Strange, like all of the options and possibilities, we could possibly go 8 for 9. I think maybe 9 for 9 is not going to happen just because it's so hard to do that on a 3.
Yeah.
It's too
Well,
many road
the
trips
Minnesota
back
series is at home.
It's at home.
It's
Yeah,
at
it's at
home.
home.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
Minnesota series is at home, so I
It's a
think that
quick-
gives us a bit of an advantage
It's a
actually
quick East
compared to
Coast
playing
trip.
in
Yeah,
Minnesota.
I agree.
It's a
yeah.
quick East
Yeah.
Coast trip.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there is a possibility where we're between 7 to 9 wins, and the offense is going to continue to rake.
Yeah.
I just worry about J-Ram in
Yeah.
Cleveland. That's the only thing. That guy knows how to play baseball extremely well, and he likes to hit against us.
Yeah.
And I don't see a way where we lose every series.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we win 7. And I
Yeah.
think we really put some distance between us and the Diamondbacks, and especially the Phillies, who are kind of in a tailspin right now. And I
Yeah.
hope that continues.
Yeah.
I think we'll be in pretty good position coming out of this road trip for sure. It's definitely a springboard into that final push for
Yeah.
October.
So for me, full agreement. I think 2 out of 3 in Cleveland, sweep the Mets, 2 out of 3 at home against Minnesota. But like the full Hopium version of me is like, why not us? Why can't we go on that Boston Red Sox run that they would go on, right? So, we've won 5 in a row headed here. I would love to win all 9 and come home, and start our next
Yeah.
pod with, what, a 14-game winning
14-game
streak.
win streak.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
It'd be
That'd
crazy. Like,
nuts.
why not, right? But like this
Yeah.
team feels like it's a team that could accomplish that, right? Like, and I'm not just speaking from a homerism point of view.
No.
This isn't me just with the hopium. Like we took 2 series out of 2 playoff contenders in the past 6 days of baseball, right? Not only the past 6 days of baseball, like at the tail end of 26 straight, right? So this
Yep.
team's exhausted from traveling, playing 26 straight, and they stayed scrappy. And even when we're losing any of these games, we sat here and thought it's only 1, it's only 2. These big hits were going to come at some point, and they did come, right? So, why not us? So, the one thing I do want to point out, conveniently, so Mize will go in Game 3 against Cleveland, Game 2 against the Twins. Having spent 10 years in the AL Central, both teams have some familiarity with Mize, so this might not work to our advantage here. But I'm a believer in his stuff, so I think I'm not super concerned. But interestingly enough, he gets traded away from the AL Central, and he's playing those 2 teams again pretty shortly here. So
Crazy.
yeah, let's switch lanes a little bit into Wildcard Outlook. I do want to start this off because I did post something before we recorded 2 hours ago. If there's anybody that wanted to sound off on what they like to hear us yap about, and I think this would be a pretty good time to bring this up. Nick, our friend Nick Gale 19 asks, look at the schedules of the wildcard contenders coming up. Which team do you think is the biggest threat to the pods? I'll start with this one, and then I'll throw it to you guys. Arizona. It's Arizona. We're 5-5 against them in the season. We close the season against them with 3. Hopefully, we have a much bigger lead heading into that final series of the season. But the biggest threat to me at this point in time, Arizona. I'm not necessarily worried about Philadelphia. Like, I would love for them to fall out of the race and for us to stay ahead of them, but they do own the tiebreaker against us. They are 6-0 against us this season. So the Cardinals sold, the Nationals sold, the Mets sold. The Pirates bought but are struggling. With who knows what's going on with Paul Skeens? Like, I think his fastest fastball was clocked at 96.5 his last start, right? Not worried about Pittsburgh in the slightest bit. No disrespect. Respectfully, not worried about the Pittsburgh Pirates. So Arizona. Arizona is the biggest team that worries me. But I feel like catching the Cubs might be tough. But I think it's doable. But I think the second spot is for us to fall out of. But my biggest concern amongst the contenders, Arizona. But what do you got, Coop?
Yeah, I definitely think that's one of the front runners. But a team that sort of has some sneaky, dangerous threats in my mind is actually because remember, if the Diamondbacks overtake us, we're still in the wild card.
Yep.
So I started looking a little further down the table. I think the Cincinnati Reds are a bit of a sneaky threat.
Yeah.
And here's why.
Oh,
Looking at their schedule, right? Because if I remember correctly, Nick focused on like upcoming schedules, right? And I wanted to look at different team schedules and go from there. The Reds are playing a lot of games at home in the backstretch of the season. Great American Ballpark, it certainly inflates an offense's momentum.
And they have
everything flies.
studs on that team.
Great American Small Park, you mean?
Yeah, and they have studs on that team.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And they have studs. So if that offense gets hot, I think they're a team that could make some noise.
Great call out.
And they also have some late contests with other teams that are really tight in that wild card race.
Yeah.
So I'm not predicting them to make a crazy push. But if I'm looking at teams that are outside, who is calling me right now? If I'm looking at teams that are outside the position, but have a chance to make a push, I think the Red Sox might be one of them.
Yeah.
Again, not a strong contender, but looking at their schedule, they're not someone to take lightly.
Yeah. What about you, Bob?
It's Philadelphia for me. I love that we all had different answers, and I think looking at the upcoming schedule, the Diamondbacks play 3 against Atlanta and then 3 against Boston, all on the road.
Yeah.
Just in the next 6 games. And if you look at Philadelphia, they play Minnesota because they got the Field of Dreams series.
Yeah.
Or just the one, and then they're in Minnesota, and then they play the Marlins right after.
Yeah.
And both of those teams are not really like Coop said with the Twins, they are in a very weak division. It's very possible they could get hot at the right time and actually win a division. I think Miami is in an absolute tailspin. And then they play St. Louis, and then they go to Seattle, and then they finish the month with 3 against the Angels.
Yeah.
That, to me, is just a lot of win. I think they win pretty much every series for the rest of the way in September.
Yeah.
I think definitely that is a team that could catch us very quickly if we don't capitalize on the position that we gained today. They close out they play one game in September, the very last day of September, with Arizona in Arizona, and then the first 2 in September are against Arizona. So we have to really tune in. I think it's the 31st, the 1st, and the 2nd to watch Phillies and Diamondbacks and hope they just beat each other up.
Yeah.
Because we don't play Philadelphia again, I don't think. And then we play Arizona the very last series of the year.
Yeah.
I think betting against an offense that has Luis Ariz, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryson Stott, especially with how Stott's swinging the bat right now, is dangerous. And they have Christopher Sanchez, who I think is the most underrated pitcher in the National League. Dude's absolutely filthy.
Yeah.
And Johan Duran in the back of the bullpen. If you look at our teams, they are assembled very similarly. They want to shorten the game just like we do, and instead of betting on the long ball like they do, we kind of hope for stuff in the gap, a little bit more of a team collective offensive performance, at least historically.
Yeah.
I know recently it's been different, but just Philly, and they've had our number. I'm not afraid to say it. I know that Philly fans like having our number and they like playing us, and I think that anytime they're close to us, I get worried.
Yeah.
So it's definitely Philadelphia for me.
Yeah. I think our path for a deep postseason run would align with the Phillies grabbing the last spot in that wild card, and for them and the Dodgers to just beat the living crap out of each other before we have to play either of them, right? Because both of those teams have our number. Let's just call it what it is.
What it is.
The Cubs have our numbers as well. The 2 teams that we do play fairly decently well in the NL pennant hunt is probably Atlanta and Milwaukee, right? So the HOPIUM, the dream, the prayer is, if Philadelphia makes it, they face the Dodgers early and they just beat each other up, and we somehow get past the Cubs. Let's it's been we're about an hour and a half in, so let's go ahead and move on to our closing statement. Let's start with you, Coop.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you listening to our show for the last hour and a half if you've been here this whole time. I'm feeling very optimistic about this wild card push. I think the team has finally shown me what on paper has told me.
Yeah.
We in our early days episodes, I know we were talking a lot about advanced analytics and like this team can do it. This team is equipped to do it, and now we're seeing them do it. So feeling very good about that. I am worried about Nick Pavetta's return or potential lack thereof because I really want to see him in that rotation for a playoff push. But Bill's favorite line, why not us?
Yep.
Right.
Actually, I actually got that from Bob, so I'm going to give credit to Bob there. Go ahead, Bob.
Bob's favorite line, why not us?
Why not us? Keep the faith. Always. And with the fate of the universe on the line, you all know who I trust, Tio Wandy. But on a more real note, I'm sort of the same ilk, dude. I'm just going to keep hammering the same drum I've been hammering all year. Every year could be your year.
Yeah.
And this team has the numbers to prove, and they have made their case. This is a case study going into the deadline and immediately after the deadline that this team can go on a run and make some noise.
Yeah.
Also, I think we see Joe Musgrove in New York.
Oh,
I think he comes out of the bullpen and he throws an inning or two in New York. I think that it lines up where he has another start somewhere in the next couple days, comes back with the team, and he goes out and he maybe faces 3 or 4 batters.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be great. I'm not saying it's going to be world beating, but I will be happy to see Joe Musgrove, big old 44, back on the mound throwing that curveball. And I think, clip it, send it. I feel good about it. I said it on my Threads account earlier this week that I do think we're about a week away from Musgrove being back on the Padres full time. And I think, we see him come out of the bullpen to start.
Yeah.
And I feel good about our team.
Yeah.
And why not us? Keep the faith. And thank you for listening.
Yeah. I'm gonna look in the camera when I say this. I'm gonna try my best. I'm Bluey. Some of you know me as Billy, the dealer of the Hopium in on Padres Threads. So I'm looking at the eye when I give you this Hopium. It's been a roller coaster of a season, right? A lot of ups and downs, a lot of like stressful baseball that shouldn't have been as stressful. But in baseball, in any sports, it's about getting hot at the right time. And the San Diego Padres are absolutely getting hot at the correct time. No better time to get hot than August down a stretch run trying to secure a wild card run. Here's why we have Hopium, right? Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr., superstars performing at superstar level. Ty France, dumpster dive, performing at a superstar level. Adrian Mahone, Mason Miller. And now we have 3 starters in Michael King, Casey Mize. Well, technically Robbie, he hasn't shown us yet, but 3 starters that we can trust to go get us 5, 6, maybe 7 innings, right? You have starters that can get you those innings and the game effectively shortens, right? So buckle up, faithfuls. 3rd postseason run incoming. No better way to kind of end the Seidler era, in my opinion, is to make one more postseason run and try to win it for Papa Pete, right? So buckle in. This is going to be a wild 6 weeks of baseball that's coming up. If anything else, keep the faith, and why not us, right? So we're hot at the right time. This is the time you buy into the San Diego Padres, because coming alive at the right time. But to close, as I always say, we know you guys are all busy with life, work, family, everything in between. Whether you listen for 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, or the whole show, we appreciate the hell out of you. As always, we look forward to chat with y'all in the group chat and just on Threads in general. But appreciate y'all. We'll probably see you in a couple weeks here. Peace.
Go ahead, tell us it's a gamble, then we shooting dice. Go ahead, tell us that there's only so much time in the day. That's okay, we work through the night. Yeah. What you mean I can't do that? Yeah. What you mean stop, I'ma run through that. Y'all could throw shade all you want. Just another day in the sun. Another day in the sun.